one of the elements of why our music works is because there's a sort of both romanticism and abstraction contained in it, so that it's very people can really use their imaginations when they listen to it, and I think that's what happens, that it becomes music that you sort of paint memories on almost. And one of the things that we listened to when doing this project were some really early demos. We actually found half a dozen demos of songs that were done long before we had a record deal. I mean, they were done in '65, I would think, or very early '66. And extraordinary to listen to Sid's sort of songwriting ability at that time. I mean, it is really extraordinary in many ways when looking back at what Sid did and what Sid contributed, that we actually survived at all without him. Sid tends to be remembered perhaps for the sort of rather whimsical English thing, but actually he was very involved in the whole sort of the long pieces of music, the almost sort of film score things, and the interstellar overdrives and so on. I mean, there is this very odd thing of Sid reappearing when we were doing Wish You Were Here, and perhaps acting as a sort of catalyst to concentrate what the record became to be. So there is that spirit that still wanders through all our work, I think. Well, I tend to cite Set the Controls as a song that's actually one of my favourites, because first of all, it's a great song to play live. But I also thought it was the real blossoming of Roger's writing. And it really was a surprise, because up to then, Roger's main contribution had been a song called Doctor Doctor on Piper, which is, to my mind, one of his less great works. And I think when we were talking yesterday, I was saying that one of the things that has contributed to the longevity of the band is Roger's songwriting, because his lyrics are extraordinarily grown up. When you look at some of the dark side elements, that these were songs written by a 20-something guy, but they're actually as relevant today or then to a 50 or 60-year-old, perhaps almost more so. If ever there was a man who was old before his time, it was Roger. Thinking back to something like Piper, the thing to remember is that Piper is made up of a series of songs which are enormously chopped down versions of what we were actually playing live. And I think in some ways what we were doing live then was the more experimental end of it all, because most of the songs were almost like jazz pieces. They were the basis for what we were going to do, what we did in the live shows. But then when we went into Abbey Road, I think there was very much a sense of, right, now we've got to, with Piper anyway, we've got to do these pop songs. The interesting thing really was that by the next album, by the time we got to Saucer, we'd worked out that that was not actually what we wanted to put on the record. And the title track for Saucer is a sort of almost a suite in three movements. And that was much more, I think, the feeling that this was the way forward. We were really fortunate in our timing to be around at a point just at which it suddenly became a really good idea to give bands almost unlimited studio time. What then happened was that the experimental stuff actually came back into the studio. And again, Abbey Road in that respect was fantastically advanced, and there were a lot of experiments going on with tape loops and with tape echo, and with flanging and phasing and things, which were all done in very crude ways. Phasing, which was something the Beatles favoured, if you think of something like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, was done, in fact, just with someone's hand brushing the top of a tape recorder that was playing the same track at the same time. And by just brushing it, you could slow it that fraction so that it would phase with the other track. And I mean, now you just sort of plug something in and there it is. It's there. But at the time, it was really quite... it really was experimental stuff, and no one had quite worked out, in some cases, how to do it.
There is no dark side in the moon, really. Matter of fact, it's all dark.